This radio program is PG-13. Parents strongly caution some material may be inappropriate for children under the age of 13.
The following program is sponsored by Michael W. Smith. The views expressed on the following program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership.
Phoenix! Brother Mike is back on the radio. Welcome to Filthy Fridays. It's Friday. Welcome to the program. Today's Bible study, The Baby Butchers. Have you not called somebody and tell them the radio program's on? This is just for us today. Filthy Fridays is usually a little bit too much. You might be able to call some people if you think they've got a strong stomach, but if not, don't call. This is Brother Mike. I'm the professional counselor at the Arizona Deliverance Center. We're downtown on 15th Avenue, just south of Osborne Road. It's the red brick building. HardcoreChristianity.com is the website. All of our ministry services are there. Please remember we have 2 live services every week, Thursday, Friday nights at 7 o'clock, 3 live Zoom services every week, Monday at 6:30 for the ladies only, Wednesday and Saturday for everybody at 6 o'clock. Please remember we have Children's Deliverance Service, preteens only, the first Saturday of every month, 10 o'clock in the small sanctuary at the Arizona Deliverance Center. Please bring your children to get healed before they get stolen by Satan. You know somebody who's a shut-in? No problem. My podcast is on every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. I teach the deep things of God. Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock on twitch.tv. Send me an email, Mike at hardcorechristianity.com. Send me an email and I will send you all the information about our services, the Zoom times, the passwords, codes. Send you everything you need. Twitch.tv/HCCADC. I'll send you all the information about the podcast. Send me an email, Mike at hardcorechristianity.com, or call at 602-636-5800. A religious organization in California filed a Freedom of Information request, a public records request involving Planned Parenthood, the Baby Butchers. They got some documents, and when they got copies of them, nobody could believe what they were reading. I could, but evidently everybody else was stunned. They had been selling 23-week-old aborted baby fetuses to the University of California at San Diego for research purposes. When they sell these fetuses, Planned Parenthood's been doing it for years, they make the schools, the research facilities, and the research labs at the universities sign a document that says in exchange for the fetus that they have to sign a document that grants all the money from the research done on the fetuses, in other words, the intellectual property rights, has to be turned over to Planned Parenthood. And in addition to receiving tax dollars, which supposedly the Trump administration is going to end, in addition to receiving tax dollars, they get money in from these intellectual property rights when they sell these fetuses. Even though, mind you, it's against the law to sell baby parts. You're not allowed to take a baby or parts of a baby and sell it. It's against the law. It's a felony. And of course, the current administration is not going to charge Planned Parenthood with anything, even though if it's a felony, they don't care. But that's what they're doing. They're selling baby parts. We already found out about that about 6 years ago when some guy took a bunch of Planned Parent people out to lunch. You remember the video? It's on YouTube. And they were all talking about how much they sell the baby parts for, and you could get more money for this baby part over that one and so on. But these records indicated that they're selling illegal partial birth abortion baby parts, and they also make the mothers that come in, they have to sign forms, which allows them to sell the parts. And they sign forms that they will not sue Planned Parenthood. And they allow Planned Parenthood to discriminate racially against the fetuses. Well, many people now are calling for a federal investigation. They're violating the law selling human baby tissue. You can't do that. It's a felony. And you can't sell them for intellectual property rights. That's total insanity. You're not allowed to do that. And this situation is another example of the level of sin and corruption in our society. How can a society allow, under any circumstances, people to abort babies, carve them up and sell the body parts like you were at a junkyard selling auto parts to people? How can you do that? And most of the infants that were sold were 23 weeks old, and we know now from medical advancements in medical science that a baby that's 23 weeks old and is premature, a preemie, they can save them now with the electronic equipment, the resuscitatory equipment, the medical equipment they have now. They can save babies that are 23 weeks old. When they're out of the womb, they can save their lives. And Planned Parenthood knows that, but they don't care. They're not interested. You remember in the Old Testament, in several places, the king of the gods was Moloch, also called Chemosh. Moloch means king of the gods in Hebrew, and he demanded child sacrifices. So what they would do is, these gigantic statues, 40 feet in the air, were made out of brass. And it was a man sitting on a throne with the head of a steer, big horns, with his arms outstretched before him as he sat on the throne. That was Moloch. And then they would start a fire inside the statue, and that would heat the brass up to unbelievable temperatures. And then the priests of Moloch, would take the babies from the mothers, many times by force. The mothers didn't want to give up the babies. And they would start playing drums real loud, drowning out the sound of the mothers and the babies screaming as they placed the children alive, burning them to death in the hands of Moloch, the king of the gods. Can you imagine that? We have Moloch in the United States. Yeah, we sure do. Planned Parenthood. When you do an abortion, sometimes you chop the baby up inside the womb and then take it out by parts. Depending on what kind of orders you've got, you remove the parts based on the research lab's requests. They fill out requests for certain parts, just like you'd go to a retail store. Fill out a form requesting certain products. and they give you the body parts. You sign the forms and you're gone. You take it back to the lab at the university. A lot of people think I'm making this up. They think this is ridiculous. Yeah, you got to be kidding. Brother Mike's lost his mind. Friend, I haven't lost my mind. This is exactly what is going on in our society. They put these Planned Parenthood facilities in poor neighborhoods. Most of the aborted babies in the United States are black. Blacks are not even close to the dominant population in the United States. They're way behind whites and Hispanics. And they're the number one aborted babies. And Planned Parenthood knows that. So they have these clinics in these African American neighborhoods. Can you imagine that? And they just keep going. They don't stop. I know this stuff is hard to believe, but technically, it's a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a fine of $500,000. That's supposed to be the penalty for doing this. But the Biden administration, of course, covered it up the whole time. But supposedly, the Trump administration is going to shut down all taxpayer funding for Planned Parenthood and make them get funding from their normal donors and not have the taxpayers butchering and carving up babies and then selling the body parts. If you can believe that, that's not something that most Americans are interested in. In recent polling, it's been substantiated that America is not in favor of, they are in favor of abortion, but they are not in favor of late-term abortions and certainly aren't in favor of chopping babies up and selling the body parts. That is not something that Americans support. Everybody knows that. But wickedness and lawlessness shall abound in the last days, Jesus said. Iniquity shall abound, and the love of many shall wax cold, and that's what we're staring at here. The love of many waxing cold. If you had an abortion and you're still having emotional issues relating it, you can be forgiven, delivered, and healed. 602-636-5800. Send me an email, mike@hardcorechristianity.com. Abortion is not an unforgivable sin. If you repent of it and come in, you can be delivered from demons that you picked up while you had the abortion, and you can be forgiven. See you next time.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership. This program was sponsored by Michael W. Smith.